Hello, my name is Mark O'Keefe. I'm Executive Editor of Herald-Standard.com. Welcome to the Herald-Standard.com editorial board debate between candidates for the 51st Legislative District, which includes much of Fayette County. The candidates are Democrat incumbent Tim Mahoney and his Republican challenger Gary Gearing. We thank them both for agreeing to meet with us today. The editorial board members present today are courthouse reporter Jennifer Harr, managing editor for content Terry Sneed, and community member Bill Long. The candidates will get 3 minutes for opening and closing statements and 3 minutes to answer questions from members of the editorial board. So we'll start out with opening statements and we'll go alphabetical order. So Mr. Gearing, I believe that's you.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to thank the Herald-Standard for inviting me. The electoral process lies at the heart of what the Founding Fathers envisioned for our country. The sharing, comparing, and airing of ideas is fundamental to that process. So thank you for hosting this conversation and ensuring that that process unfolds as our founders intended. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Gary Gearing, and I'm running for state representative in the 51st District. I grew up here. I started working at the age of 12 and sweeping floors in my father's factory. I attended Uniontown High School, the Naval Academy, WVU, and Carnegie Mellon. This is home. Together with my beautiful wife Lisa, we've raised 4 wonderful children, all graduates of Uniontown Public Schools. I attend St. John's Church, where I'm an usher, and for the last 3 years I've served on Uniontown City Council. I make my living at the Fayette Building, a National Historic Landmark that was 30 days away from being condemned, that's been saved from the wrecking ball. This region has much to offer: agriculture and architecture, historic and scenic venues for tourism, small town charm situated close to a world-class city and airport, and natural resources that offer economic opportunities that rival the days when coal was king. I wish everyone could see the opportunities that I do, but that's tough with our current economic indicators. Our population is down another 8%. Unemployment is still at 9.2%, and the number of businesses operating here has declined. Consider this letter out of the Herald-Standard in July, out of the editorial page, that basically said from a recent high school graduate that, there's nothing here, zero opportunity. Unfortunately, we've heard this for far too long. We deserve better leadership. With the resources we have to offer, it's time to stop accepting the status quo, and every citizen should be holding government accountable. We deserve leaders who will work to move Fayette forward and take advantage of our abundant resources and create a business-friendly environment to create jobs for the people of Fayette. The decisions being made in Harrisburg aren't working for us. Much of what's done in Harrisburg is to the benefit of Philly, but we're not Philly. Send me to Harrisburg and I'll make sure that Harrisburg hears your voice. I'm going to Harrisburg to advocate for economic policies that work for us, here, not just Philly, and policies that promote jobs in Fayette County. I'm going to Harrisburg to represent you, not a party, to be a voice for the entire 51st District that will be heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mahoney.
Hi, my name is Tim Mahoney, and I am the representative in the 51st District in Fayette County. I went to Harrisburg with a couple goals in mind, is to try to change Fayette to a better place for where you can raise a family and try to keep the kids here. And a couple of my goals when I went to Harrisburg was the open records, which I helped push through and to get into a new law that brought Pennsylvania from 48th to 24th in the country in a short period. A couple things I'm working on now in Harrisburg. First, when I went to Harrisburg, I was put on an appropriations committee as a freshman, first time ever for anybody in the state of Pennsylvania. I was put on the reform commission to reform the legislature, which we did a good job. No more late night voting, 24 hours to understand a bill before you can vote on it. those type of things. I supported the Castle Doctrine. We got that through. It was a Republican bill. I was one of the first Democrats to support that. I was the first Democrat to sign on to House Bill 1776 to try to reform property taxes so we can cut our school taxes to help the seniors and elderly people in this area. But it's kind of stalled. I think the Republicans are kind of not wanting to push that right now at this moment. I was the first Democrat to sign on to Speaker Sam Smith's House Bill 153 to reduce the size of the House and the Senate from 203 to 153 in the House and from 50 to 38 in the Senate. I pushed hard to get the casino license up at Nemacolin, and we finally got that done, and hopefully this time next year we'll have anywhere between 250 to 350 new jobs in that industry. And more recently, I co-signed a bill with Representative Daley from the Mon Valley to repeal the small games of chance bill that is going to destroy our local fire companies and
30 seconds.
And clubs with how the bill was written last year. And I know a lot of people out there know me. I'm from Fayette County all my life. I've always given back to Fayette County. I've started numerous businesses here in Fayette County, and I give back to Fayette County. I give $12,000 a year out of my own personal checking account for scholarships, for Christmas dinners, for coloring contests for fourth graders, for all Fayette County students. And I'm just looking for your support and trying to help finish some incentives that I've started as far as trying to consolidate some schools and maybe some police.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'll take the first question. What's your opinion of the voter ID law? Do you think the judge ruled properly in the case, and do you think his injunction should be made permanent?
Well, I fought to repeal that, and I think he did do I think he made the right decision, because it isn't so much about the ID, it's about who can obtain the ID. I have a lot of senior citizens in my district that were afraid because before 1937, people, they didn't even need to have a birth certificate, and it was just it just made them a little hesitant on trying to, go out there and work the computers and try to get what they need to get the ID. And that's the main reason I fought against the voter ID, and I think the judge did make the right decision.
And you think it should be made, the injunction should be made permanent?
Permanently. I think it should be paid permanently. Because it disenfranchises so many groups of people.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Gearing?
In regards to voter ID and election issues, I've got several issues. So I think voter ID is actually necessary to keep elections fair, because everybody wants to have a fair election, and that's part of what we're all about. But there's certain things that take place, because even locally, we haven't purged the voter rolls, and without ID, you could vote in more than one place, because you could be registered in more than one place. With the voter ID law as well, it didn't do a very good job of addressing absentee ballots, but we know that votes are very important. I'm not trying to take anybody's vote away, all right? But we know, and my opponent is on record as saying that he knows that voter fraud exists. It's just, and it's been said nationally. They just want to say that it's insignificant. Well, when they say that less than 1% of voter fraud is insignificant, nationally we would have elected 2 different presidents. And locally, we already know that 1 or 2 votes would have changed the outcome of several local races. So, it is important to get it right and correct. When someone votes at the wrong precinct, potentially if they're on the border, they're not even given the proper ballot. In other words, if someone's in Bullskin 2, voting in Bullskin 2 instead of Bullskin 1, they wouldn't even be voting for Mr. Mahoney and I. They'd be voting for somebody else. And so that's why all of this is, I believe, that it's important to have fair elections. And we know in Fayette County as well that we had the Boris Personal Care Home situation that took place. We also know that there were electoral offices that weren't put on the ballot, that were supposed to be put on the ballot. And we also know, even right now, that our current representatives embroiled in a potential situation that needs investigated. I mean, even your headline in the paper, when we're talking about things, is there's a grand jury to probe voter issues. So all this comes out, and hopefully we get to this. I'd like to know what the status of this is, because it needs to be investigated. But
You have 30 seconds.
I think it's stalled out. And there's many issues that go along with that. Whether I win or lose, it's not about me. It's about having fair elections and having I wish more people were registered. Only half the people that are registered to vote are actually registered. And voter turnout is always key. We want to have more people come out and vote, but we want it to be fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Time's up. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to take the second question too. The Turnpike Commission is reportedly $7 billion in debt, with much of the revenue going to help pay for PennDOT's transportation costs. There is concern over whether the Turnpike Commission could default on the bonds. Do you share that concern, and how do you think the Turnpike Commission should get out of debt? Also, do you think more revenue is needed to pay for the state's transportation needs, and how do you think it should be raised? And finally, are you in favor of the Turnpike Commission raising its tolls by 3% each year till 2050, as is the plan now? We'll start with Gary.
Okay. I didn't get to write down all the different parts of that
You want me to
question. So
repeat it?
well, I'll work on hitting a few, and if there's something that I missed, you can come back and remind me to hit some of the other issues. Pennsylvania has a large infrastructure problem, period. We haven't been paying for our roads and our bridges for a long, long time. And maintenance and repair is key. But one of the things that we do, even with the Turnpike Commission, is we spend money on other things other than the Turnpike. No different whenever the governor wanted to toll I-80. Well, they said that the feds shot it down. It's like, no, the feds really didn't shoot it down. The feds said that if you wanted to toll I-80, go ahead. But you have to spend the money on what? I-80. What you're not allowed to do, which is what we do in politics too many times, is the bait and switch. We advertise things for one thing, and then we end up spending some of the money on something else. We voted on whether or not we were going to have sports stadiums, and we voted no, but we got them anyway. All right. A lot of the money, again, in the Turnpike, their problem came in is whenever they're now required to pay a much larger annual several $100 million a year now that they didn't have to pay before. So somebody put a mandate on them that's going there, as well as when we talk about the Turnpike Commission, a lot of that money goes to SEPTA and the PAT. All right, again, that's not the Turnpike, but again, it's where all the revenues in the different revenue streams that are going. But do we have to take care of our roads and our bridges? Absolutely. And how do we generate the money for some of that? Well, there's several ways to do it, but none of them are pleasant, because again, what you're talking about, if you're not shifting revenue, because we can't spend more than what our income is, and a lot of things can't be deferred, so that means that people that use it have to pay for it. and whether or not that's increases on the turnpike, and we're already seeing increases on the turnpike rates, or increases which nobody's in favor of on gas taxes. But it's, you know, and the reason being, again, not only does it hurt us at home in the pocketbook, okay, you've got no political will to do something, because, you know, those are the things that become things like political suicide, as people say. All right, well, but again, that's a different issue. You know, and that's the reason why I think we should have term limits, so that people are able to do the job and do what's needed and necessary, and not what's politically correct or expedient for their next re-election.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that enough?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. What about, are you in favor of the Turnpike Commission raising its tolls by 3% each year till 2050? Is the plan now?
Again, I don't know if that's needed and necessary, and without seeing the study and what's there, I'm not going to give it an up and down yes or no, because again, it might not take that much time. It might not take that much of an increase. I don't know where they're actually going to go spend the money and what they're intending to spend the money on. If it's all going to be spent on roads and bridges, potentially that's good. But, you know, I don't know that.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, Tim?
First of all, I think everyone in Fayette County knows I'm not a political correct person to begin with. And what did happen with the Turnpike happened a few years ago when Act 44 went into place, where the Turnpike borrowed bond money to help PennDOT, because the legislature kept kicking the problem down the road for years and years. And they're still, under this administration, they do not want to talk about transportation, on how we fund transportation. I mean, this administration has to come up with a plan to get it through the legislature, because we are sitting on a crisis. Our bridges are the worst in the country. We have more road miles than anyone in the country, in this state. And we have to come up with some kind of dedicated funding for PennDOT, where they don't keep shifting it to mass transit or any other little agency they plan on trying to fund. But we need a dedicated funding for roads and bridges. And as far as the Turnpike, raising the tolls, they're not $7 billion, they're $9 billion in the hole. They're anywhere between 7 and 9 billion in a hole, and I don't see any other way of them being able to come out of that unless they do something with the fees in the next few years. That's it.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, Bill, you want to take the third question? You might even include both the third and the fourth one.
Yes, I'm thinking I should. I guess I'll give you both of these. Both dealing with the Marcellus Shale industry. The first part of the questioning is, do you think more or less regulations are needed for Marcellus Shale? In conjunction with that, do you think the state's DEP has done a good job of regulation? And then, in conjunction with that, do you think the Marcellus Shale industry needs help from state government? And if so, what things would you like to see happen? What's your opinion on the tax? Is it too much or too little?
Am I first, this one?
Yes.
First of all, we left too much money on the table when we did the Marcellus Shale deal. We left $400 million this year on the table. Not 399 million, 400. And I do believe that the Marcellus Shale will be a very valuable piece of this economy in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 years in that time frame. But it comes back to education, on how we educate our young people for that industry. And I believe that the DEP is acting responsible for the Marcellus Shale. And what was the other part of that question?
The other part has to do with state government. Do you think the Marcellus Shale needs help from state government? And if so, what would you like to see would happen? Then you already
I think, they definitely need the help from the state government with some type of tax incentives for new companies coming here, but we don't need to give Shell, one of the largest corporations in the world, a $1.5 billion tax credit to build a cracker plant here. A $1.5 billion tax incentive, which happened this year. So, my opinion, I think it's a good industry. I think it's going to help this area, but it's going to come back to education on how we train our people for these type of jobs. I don't see many jobs. I see a lot of jobs going to that industry right now, but in the future, I'd love to see a lot more go to that industry from a local aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Gary.
Marcellus Shale, it's actually, I believe right now, it's a vital industry and a major player in our economy, not only in Pennsylvania, but nationally. And it has a major play because, I believe that the state should create an energy policy. When the federal government wants to talk about energy independence, and everybody wants to talk about energy independence, there's no reason why, Pennsylvania shouldn't be working on being energy independent. We have all the natural resources here to do that, and natural gas is one of those major players. What we have to do is create a business-friendly environment with our policies to be able to make that happen. What we don't want to do is kind of do what New York did and put a moratorium on things and shut things down. That's not good. What Denver did is they put on some more things that chased rigs and things out of Denver, so they shifted their money to other states, which is why we're seeing more going on in Pennsylvania right now. Do we need regulation? Absolutely, because things that are unregulated that not necessarily responsible people, but not everybody is responsible. And even when you do have regulations, that some people violate them anyway, so there's got to be consequences to actions. But we don't want to create so much red tape, as they've done in some other states, as to stop the economy from being able to come forward. With this industry as well, not only is there natural gas, but there's a lot of other spin-off businesses that can come to Pennsylvania that'll help create manufacturing and stimulate the economy in many other ways. And those are going to be long-term jobs as well. That's a major infrastructure that we have to be concerned with also, with the build-out of the pipelines that are going to be needed and necessary to transport the gas, not only locally in the gathering lines, but also to be able to get the gas to market. Do I think that the tax could have been a little higher? Yes, I do. At the same time, I don't think that we should be giving it away. The largest owner of gas in this state is you and me. We own more resources than anyone else because they are state lands. If you sold your house at 15 cents on the dollar, would that be a good price? That's a distressed sale. We have the ability to be able to negotiate and to do things. So, do they need help? They need help in the way of good, sound policies to attract people here so that we're doing things. But we need to be able to do things safely. Safety is key, and that's where the regulation comes in. But, development and safety and protecting the environment are not mutually exclusive. They can go and work hand in hand.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Terry, you want to take question number 5?
Sure. The state recently released its PSSA test scores, and many of the school districts in Fayette, Greene, and Washington counties failed to meet adequate yearly progress. What do you think is the reason behind the low test scores? Do you fault Governor Corbett for his education cutbacks, or do you place more blame on the local school districts?
Start out with Gary.
Okay. We talk about education. I just want to start off and say that education's very important to me. Okay, my family has 5 generations of educators in it. Okay, both on the teacher side and the administrator side. Education is also, when we're talking about the economy, it's our future. All right, without a developed workforce, a 21st century workforce, we're not going to have an economic recovery. Education is also key and primary to freedom and democracy. You can't have good democracy and freedom without an educated population. So, it works all the way around. I'm not blaming anybody for the poor test scores that we have. But let's recognize that we have poor test scores. And what we can't continue to do is the same things in the same ways, because if you continue to do the same things in the same ways, you're going to continue to get similar results. We've been putting money and throwing money at education for years. Throwing money at it just isn't the answer. There's a lot of other things that need to happen and need to take place. And even when we have poor test scores here, I always tell people everywhere that you can still get a solid education in Fayette County at any one of our schools, because we're sending people to the Ivy Leagues every year and the academies every year. All right, but education has to be important at home. It has to be important to the student, and because with the teachers, we have quality teachers, but you have to show up. You have to want to go to school and to be able to get an education. Unfortunately, we still have also a very high dropout rate. We worked on bringing all of our test scores up, and they were moving up, and then all of a sudden, things fell down. Well, one of the things with the No Child Left Behind that's in the concept of bringing everybody up to 100%, that's not possible, because 100% is an absolute. So some of the numbers like that need to change, only because you're setting yourself up for failure if you don't. And whenever we're comparing ourselves to, thank you, countries around the world on quality education, remember that everybody around the world is still sending their people to get educated where? Here. Right here in the United States. Okay, so we do have the best quality educators and facilities around the world. And we can compete. And we do compete. But, we also need fair educational funding for our schools. All right, and I believe that starts, and the primary resources, I believe, need to be structured at the bottom so that people know how to read and write and do math at the early stages.
Your time's up.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Tim.
I'll start this one. Education is probably the most important thing that I have on my forefront or my agenda. I think everyone knows in Fayette County that I tried, and I'm still going to try to make education better in Fayette County, because when you go to relocate and you want companies to come here, like I just did a ribbon cutting for Calfrac out there in the industrial park. I was talking to the owner. He's from Houston, Texas, and I asked him what motivates him opening different companies in different parts of the country, and he said education for his employees to move so they can grow their families. And to be honest with you, I asked him then, why did you locate here to Fayette County? Because our education seems to be on the other side. He says, you know what, Mr. Mahoney, I looked at your reform plan 3 years ago when you brought it out, and you compared it to other states and bordering states in this area, hoping that the people in Fayette County would, consider something going down that road. And I was just stunned that he understood that when he was marketing his company to come here. And if we do not change the way we educate kids, and we got a good start on it. We have the superintendents meeting now, and they're trying to work together and consolidate some services. And my opponent is right on one thing: we do throw too much money at education that we're duplicating services on a lot of things, and we're just 40 miles away from Upper St. Clair. It's the #1 school district in the state of Pennsylvania, and I don't want to hear the baloney. Well, their demographics are better than Fayette County. They're not better than Fayette County. I think if we could just work as a community together, with all 6 school districts working, in one area to strive to make education common and better for the new industry that's coming to this area, we'll be a lot better off and a lot further ahead. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Could I follow on that? I would like to say that I'm not an advocate of what Mr. Mahoney's working on in school consolidation. I do believe that we still need to have school districts and school boards be in charge of things, and the referendum that he tried to put out, even first because of the 1949 law that was passed, it's not needed and necessary. If school districts want to combine on their own, they're allowed to combine on their own. And it was again a bait and switch. It was billed as a consolidation of administrations to save some money, but the study came out, and instead of consolidating administrations, the top things on the issue to save money were actually closing schools and getting rid of teachers, and that's not going to improve the quality of education. Of the $20 million that he was saving, 15 million of it was for closing schools and eliminating teachers. And I'd love to have more conversations like this. If you want to get together other times so that we can debate.
Let me respond.
Tell me where and when.
Respond to that for just
yes,
1 second.
you may.
The study that I did was just a tip of the iceberg. $20 million savings, and it did not cost teachers jobs. It did cause some school closings, and I don't know where the school closings would have been, but it would have caused some school closings because our student population has dropped so significantly that we cannot afford to keep all these brick and mortar schools open when we don't have the kids to go there. And as far as you're just barking up the wrong tree, Gary. Honestly, you are. Your party, you're Republican. You want to break the union, the teachers' unions, in the worst way, where everything becomes privatized, and the haves will have the better educations, and the have-nots don't have a chance. And that's what I'm trying to fight against. Public education is probably the most important thing in this country, as far as education and trying to get the value out of education. And as far as the school boards, and I know you want all that support, but these imaginary lines in Fayette County, not only in school boards but police departments, fire departments, they have to stop. I mean, we got to work as a people in a community and a county and try to change. We cannot keep living in the past the way we've been. And I've been out there beating the bushes, and I don't do it politically correct. My opponent brings up a voter fraud thing. It's not a voter fraud thing. It was a referendum thing that I was trying to get 140,000 people a voice, to let them have the voice on which direction they wanted to go. And my opponent and his people that are his two whatever they are, blogsters, they want to make it political. I get broad shoulders, make it political as you want. But the fact is, all I wanted to do was give 140,000 people a voice on the direction that we needed to go.
Okay, time's up. Okay, we're going to move on. There have been various proposals over the years to replace or reduce property taxes with an increase in the sales tax or adding more items which can be taxed. Overall, do you think property taxes are too high? And if so, what do you think can be done to try and lower them? Start with you, Tim.
I definitely think their school taxes are too high. The the taxes and the city taxes, they're going to be what they are for the services we do. You know, I have people coming in my office, and not one, not 10, not 50, a lot of people come in my office that are on fixed incomes that make $8,889 a year. And the first thing they do is pay their taxes. And that was another reason about how I want to try to reform the education system, because I think there is money there that can be saved to help property taxes. Sure, we can, you know, bring out this House Bill 1776. A couple of Republicans brought it out, and it's not going to go anywhere because Philadelphia is not going to let it go anywhere. They have most of the votes in Philadelphia because the Delaware is right next to them. They don't charge any taxes, no sales taxes. So, you know, we're just in a catch, a bad place to be. That's why I wanted to try to do it local. I think all politics, everything should start local, and that's why I try to do the consolidation of administrations of school districts to try to save some money so we wouldn't have to raise school taxes, which is going to keep going up and up because of what's going on in Harrisburg and this voucher plan that the governor is trying to roll out. But honestly, I just don't know where the end can be. I just don't know how much more these seniors can take. And that's my main concern, of trying to level their taxes so they don't go up, or we can reduce them in a local way. Thank you.
Tim, what happened with the original plan of earmarking casino money to drastically or eliminate property
Terry,
taxes?
it went to us. It went to us in a program of the Homestead, I think the Homestead Act, that $268 per homeowner gets. But they just wiped it up because the school districts increased it probably $300 or $400 more. So it just wiped the casino. You know, I get those calls. Where's the gambling money? It was there for the taking, and they took it. But now it's I just get so upset when it's right in front of you. The cherry's right there for Fayette County to be the first in the state to try to change the way we educate kids, and it's right there, and we just can't get to it.
Do you think too much of that money has been distributed for like the host communities or counties for casinos?
No, I believe the casino law, when enacted, did what its intent was, and their intent was to give so much to the property owners, which they have. I mean, the casinos are doing well. They're probably going to overcome in Las Vegas in 3 years, are predicting as the revenue. But they've already overcome Atlantic City. But it isn't about the casino money. It's about we just keep raising our our school property taxes. That's what hurts Fayette County. I mean, there is no getting around it. And if we can't, as people in Fayette County, can't come up to a solution at a table with 6 superintendents on how to share services or combine services or go together on services, keep their identities. But if I would get into the transportation of, we're the highest transportation per student in the state. One school district here is higher than anywhere in the state per student, and it's, I don't know. I'll fight that, and I'll have my critics, but right's right, wrong's wrong, and we have to come to the solution. If we want to go into the future and not live in the past, we have to get this conversation moving again. And everywhere I go, teachers, everybody wants to talk about this now because everyone's in jeopardy. Everyone's in jeopardy. If Governor Corbett has his way with a voucher, has a vouchers, Public education as we know it will not exist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Gary?
Well, we talked about a few things, but starting off with property tax, in reality, and I've said this before when I've run in the past, that the only way to reform property tax is to eliminate it. It's an unfunded mandate, and otherwise, just as we're seeing, something go away over here when you get a stream, then someone else is going to change it over there, and so. You basically have to the only way to truly reform property tax is to eliminate it, and that would most likely be through a combination of sales and personal income tax. With the tax that's out there right now, or the bill 1776, it just fell short of the cash flow analysis that was just actually even in your paper. Okay, although the property tax bill that was called STOP, that Bill Logue was working on, it actually did pass the cash flow test. But what it did is it eliminated property tax only on residences. And what's transpired in 1776, even though I'm looking for a business-friendly environment, it also reduced or eliminated property tax on commercial properties as well. But if you've got a commercial property, you can still run your entity, but you shouldn't be losing your house because that's key. One of our founding things for living in America. As the funding on things go, there's again many ways to do it, but that's with property tax. When we're talking going back to education, though. It's the state's responsibility. It's in our state constitution that we're supposed to be able to support education. So the state shouldn't be running away from that. One of the things he's talking about prior administrations is, we shouldn't have used stimulus money and put it in because it's temporary money. You have to put hard cash in for maintaining your base. And I think that and I use all options in improving education. No, I'm not going to eliminate vouchers. I'm not going to eliminate charter schools. I'm not going to eliminate cyber schools. There's not a one-shop stop for education.
30 seconds.
One of the things that education needs to be on is student-centered. What's best for the student, and how we do that. And there's not a solid model because we're all different.
Can I respond to something here?
You'll have I would say you'll have your time when you're closing, because we have a number of other questions that we want to get to. Bill, you want to take number 7?
Certainly. I'm quite attuned to this one. I've been associated with the county since 1980 when I was planning director, and the numbers haven't changed. Fayette County continues to have one of the highest unemployment rates in the state, according to July numbers, which are latest to be released. Fayette County ranks 57th among the state's 67 counties with an unemployment rate of 9.3%. It has historically been the highest in the Pittsburgh SMSA for as long as I can remember. What can you do to try to lower the unemployment rate in Fayette County?
So with Gary.
Well, that goes back to having a business-friendly environment. Growing up in the early 70s, Pittsburgh, when you're talking about MSAs, metropolitan statistical areas, it's a very small area, but it was the number one. It was the capital because it had more national headquarters than any other city in America. But what Pennsylvania did, it changed its tax structure and it changed its environment, and they left. What we have to be able to do is create policies for a business-friendly environment. Changing the tax code is one of those things. When you said 50th, we're 50th with the 9.99% flat income tax. We're last. We're also 43rd when you talk about friendliness for doing business with regulations. What the most competitive states out there, because we have states competing against states. That's the reason why I even said that we need to create an energy policy so that we have the cheapest energy grid in the country to allow manufacturing jobs to come to this state, that'll want to come to this state again because because of cheap energy. Our cheap energy can also help fund our schools because they use a lot of them. But the policies that we're looking for is a competitive tax advantage. What the top 5 states basically have in common is they have a competitive tax structure. They've eliminated the Delaware loophole, and they don't have a cap on net operating losses. Pennsylvania is one of only 2 states that has a cap on net operating carry-forward losses, which stops new companies from coming in and trying to do startups. Because whenever we cap things at $100,000 basically. So if you're putting up a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar facility, you've got cash flow, and you might not turn a profit in the first year. Or even if you're a small business, you might not turn a profit in the first year. But your business model says that you're going to be good after year 3, 4, or 5.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
We cap what that is, and so it restricts people from coming in here, as well as the Delaware loophole, or people kind of taking their money to Delaware and setting up shop in Delaware, so they're not paying Pennsylvania taxes. Okay, everybody else already got rid of that loophole, so we're losing revenue. So that's more revenue for our infrastructure and our roads and our bridges that we can use for our budget, because we still have to operate without raising taxes. Okay, but we also have to stay within our means.
Okay, thank you very much. Tim?
Well, how we're going to raise the economy in this area, I mean, for years you heard about the Mon Valley Expressway not being done. Okay, now it's done. And now you hear about incentives from the state. Well, we have those incentives. Now it really goes back to the key area. It's the education of the people that we have here in Fayette County. We have to educate the kids to the jobs that are coming. We need a technical school here, through a community college, or through the high schools. That we need to have a high tech and just a regular technical school, so we can educate the kids for jobs. It's like the company that just opened a couple weeks ago. They know that the boom's going to be here in Fayette within 3 to 5 years. We have a window of opportunity right now. It's like the cherries on the tree. We have the window and we have the cherry. All we have to do is pick it and try to educate the kids to the needs of that industry. And then you'll see a boom, like Washington County is seeing a boom right now. And hopefully we can do that.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Terry, you want to ask the next question?
Sure. There's been talk of reducing the number of legislators as a way of cutting costs of running state government. What's your position on this issue, and what's your position on term limits for state legislators?
Start with Tim.
Well, the first issue is, I always had mixed feelings about that, because you hear, the extreme right, you only need half of them, or whatever. But the bill that Sam Smith sponsored, which I was the first Democrat to co-sponsor it, only cut it 10 to 15%, which I thought was reasonable, because I think everyone in your district needs a voice. And when you're representing 65,000 people, it's a lot of people. And I believe that it wouldn't be that much of a cost savings per se, because you're going to have to hire additional staff to try to, fill in for more people. Term limits, I'm all for term limits, because if you can't get something done within 10 to 15 years, you don't need to be there 20, 30, 40 years. You don't. I mean, I didn't do this job. I mean, I can be real honest. I didn't do this job to be a political hack or for the money, or I did this job to try to change Fayette County because I have 4 kids and I have a grandkid now. I want to see them stay in Fayette County, and it's hard. It's hard for them to find jobs in this area that are qualified. And that's why I believe that everything that we talk about tonight and in the future should be about education in Fayette County, because it all comes back to that. And I just can't stress it enough. I talk to people all over the state. If you want to locate to somewhere, I mean, where else can you go in the state of Pennsylvania and live in such a beautiful area and have all 4 seasons, have all the tourism, have everything that you want, but you don't have the education programs that you need here. And when it all is said and done, I believe that Fayette County will be right there at the cutting edge of education within 1 or 2 years. I think people will start sitting down at this table and trying to formulate a plan to,
30 seconds.
That's all I need. I'm good.
What about term limits?
Term limits, I'm for that.
But how much? Or
I think
3 or 4 terms, or
I don't think you can't get anything done in 3 or 4 terms. I mean, unless you're like when I went to
5 or 6 then, or
I wouldn't go more than 15 years.
15 years. Okay.
I was lucky when I first went in my first term. I was driving because I had a mission for open records, and I got and everyone knew me in Harrisburg for that, and that's why I guess they recognize me as the friendliest legislator in the state of Pennsylvania, because PA Politics did that this year or last year or whatever.
Okay, Gary.
Well, this all started off with the reduction of the legislature, and I've on record in the past, and will stay consistent, that yes, I do believe that we can reduce the size of the legislature. We have the largest legislature, and the second most. No, wait a second. I've got it backwards. We've got the second largest legislature, but the most expensive. Okay. And we're spending more money than we need to be spending. And that's because of the staff and things that we have. Mr. Mahoney's softened on his position as he's been in Harrisburg, and I'm disappointed to hear him say that. I don't think that we should have, even 15 years is too long. Do I believe in term limits? Absolutely. Potentially 10 years is too long. I wouldn't, 10 years is max. If you're looking for a drop dead number, and potentially you could cut that back to 8. People need to get in and get out. Part of our problem that we see is the political thing that goes on and goes back and forth. All right, because people are looking for all the perks and all the benefits that go, because they vote on those themselves. It's not you and I that get to do this. It doesn't get to be about you and me, and it should be, and it's supposed to be about you and me. And I'm glad Mr. Mahoney brought up the transparency of government, because, although we've moved a little further to the middle, okay, we've got a long way to go. He talks about transparency, but his records aren't open. I post the city budgets and quarterly financial statements online because they should be. But Mr. Mahoney, he doesn't publish his expense reports and budgets and vouchers online. When we talk about transparency, emails and phone records should be available to the people, because we're paying for those things. Now, when Mr. Mahoney was asked about that in Harrisburg on the bill that he had put together not Senator Pileggi's bill that got passed, on whether or not those were in there. He wasn't sure. All right, but in Senator Pileggi's bill, they're not. They cut themselves out of that. You know,
30 seconds.
They deal with a whole set of rules. You and I have to, again, abide by these laws, but the legislature has set up their own set of rules that they don't have to abide by the same open record transparency laws that you and I have to abide by. And that's wrong.
I respond to that one now.
Nah, you're still.
We can get together
Put it
because
on
we
your
can
list.
have a lot of conversations anytime
anytime
you want.
We've had a lot of conversations over the last 6 years as a Democrat, Republican, and Independent too. If you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna. We have one more question that we have. It'll be the final question. Groups such as volunteer fire departments are upset over upcoming changes in the small games of chance law, which basically puts the burden of reporting winnings on a group selling chances. They're claiming the laws are too detailed and will result in them earning less money, possibly jeopardizing their existence. What do you think of the claims, and are you worried about groups such as volunteer fire departments going out of business because of the changes? And what do you think the legislature needs to do to enact or to stop it from becoming a law, if that's what you feel? Gary.
Okay. Small games of chance, the legislation, you know, this is something that's I believe that it needs to change a little bit. One of the things that's going on, though, unfortunately, is first they asked for this legislation, and they wanted this legislation, and Mr. Mahoney even voted for this legislation. But then what they saw, what the legislation was, with some of the reporting requirements, they don't want it. But a lot of the things that, and this was even done with reported in the paper as well over at Fraser High School, is many of the things that people are complaining about with the 50/50s and some of the other stuff, that was in the old law. It just hasn't been enforced. So they're complaining about things that are on the books and have been on the books, but nobody's really just complained about it. You know, do we want to put our small fire departments out of business? No, absolutely not. I fight for our fire department. We have a full-time paid fire department. It's the only one in the county, all right? And it's a community asset and a community resource, and we need it. And the community needs it. Not only does the community need it, it needs every single volunteer company that's in the county as well. Okay? These are, you know, it's a life safety issue. You can't do without these services. But you know, unfortunately, it's the type of thing. It's like when you vote for something and you vote in favor of it, maybe you didn't read what you voted on, because now you want to be the champion to repeal it.
Is that it?
For the moment.
Okay. Thank you. Tim?
When this bill came upon us, you know, it was a bill sold to us as we wanted that the fire departments and the clubs, everybody wanted it to be legal because everyone had that threat of, you know, it was laws on the books that could incriminate them. So we voted on it, and I did vote on it, and I think there was only 8 votes out of 203 that didn't vote in the affirmative. And then when the reporting of, you know, the activities of fire departments and these clubs, you know, when you're dealing with fire departments and clubs, these people are volunteers, and for them to do extra paperwork and extra this and extra that just to raise money to keep their places afloat, to keep us protected from fire, and to keep the veterans clubs open, you know, it is asinine. It is. It's truly, it needs to be repealed, and that's why I'm going to fight as hard as I can fight to repeal this and try to redo it a common sense way to a common person, so the reporting isn't so, you know, dramatic, where, you know, you can report maybe once a quarter or once a year, but I mean, it's extremely out of hand, and hopefully we can get something done. I know the Senate moved a bill the other day to legalize the 50-50, but that's not going to get it. I mean, it goes back to the reporting. It goes back to trying to help these volunteers stay afloat and try to, you know, help them keep their places solid.
What do you think the chances are in the House? Basically, according to Rich Kucinich and Tim Sullivan, it was the Republicans who were fighting to keep some of these reporting requirements.
I had a meeting with a couple of senators, and Senator Kucinich was there, and they had a chance the other day to start over, and they didn't want to start over. They wanted to keep, the Republicans want to keep it intact, but give you the 50-50, but they still want that reporting done within the status of the law. And I just, it might take another governor or another legislature to, you know, change this law, but as far as I'm concerned, when we go back and there's a whole bunch of Democrats in the legislature in the House that are going to try to repeal this.
Let me make a comment on the reporting. One of the things that's a problem with the reporting is that it's not equitable across the board. Some of the, like the volunteers are being held sometimes to a higher standard. You know, if you hit $100 on a slot machine, you're not reporting that. You know, so the reporting laws are not. You've got 3 different gaming schemes between the casinos, the state lottery, and the small games of chance. But they don't have the same standardized reporting, and some of it is even more onerous on the small games of chance, which is why I said it needed to be repealed and looked at it. But I mean, you know, unfortunately, these are things that should have been looked at and scrutinized before it got passed the first time. Maybe somebody put a bill on the floor because it was election season.
Maybe it was a Republican that put the bill on the floor.
Didn't say.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. You had your chance.
They do.
That's Gary.
I'm with them.
You had your chance.
I agree with them. That's all I'm getting at. Is I agree with
him. He has his chance now to.
Because I said it. It's election season.
Okay.
It's election season, and it does need repealed. And you know, if you were to go, if your organization, if I was a volunteer fire member, and I was selling raffle tickets, and I wanted to give those raffle tickets to my wife to give to her sister to sell 5, she could be arrested. And it's a bad law, and I just can't see how Governor Corbett and the Republicans are fighting to keep this law. And they proved that the other day over in the Senate, where they had a chance to send us a bill to start all over, and they didn't.
Okay.
Unfortunately, who's allowed to sell was actually in the old bill, so that's nothing. That's not a new part of this bill.
Okay. That's the end of the question part. We could stay here all night and talk about a lot of things, but we all have other things to do. So that concludes the question part. We're now going to give each of the candidates 3 minutes for their closing arguments, and we'll start with Ken.
Well, it's been an interesting evening, and it always is when Gary and I get together, and either if he's a Republican or independent or a Democrat, it's still interesting. But I like what I do. I honestly like what I do. I know I get a lot of criticism, and I'm always out there in front on issues that people don't really want to talk about, but really need to be talked about. But I like trying to help people, and that makes my job a lot better when you can make someone's life a little bit better, and that's what I try to do. And before I close, I just want to say a few things with Gary, what he was insinuating about my staff and per diems and that type of thing. I'll give you a couple facts. My office in Little Fayette County is probably the third busiest office in the state of Pennsylvania with constituent work. The third. When it comes to per diems, there's 92 sitting Democrats. I am at the lowest. I think there are 76 legislators that get more per diems than I do. So I don't even turn in my per diems a lot of the times because I'm here in my district trying to change my district. I'm not out going to meetings in other parts of the state that I don't think will affect my district. So I'm not going to sit here and defend how I operate. I took this job to help Fayette County. I took this job to try to change Fayette County. And on November 6th, I hope you look at my name and say, hey, he isn't not a bad guy, and give me a vote. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Gary?
Yeah, again, I'd like to thank the Herald editorial board for hosting this evening and giving us this opportunity. And, I'll extend the offer to sit down in any public forum anywhere so that Mr. Mahoney and I can cover more of these issues before the election. He's had the opportunity a couple of times so far, but hasn't been able to find time to get it into his schedule, I guess is a politically correct way to say it. And as things go, I've knocked on your door. You've seen me. All right. I've been out and spoken with you. I've had over 10,000 contacts personally with everyone that's out there. And the biggest issue that we've come up with is, the economy and jobs. I'm going to Harrisburg to create economic policies that's going to create growth here in Fayette County. Now, I know that you've heard that from my opponent, but, he's also on record of saying that, his voice isn't being heard. All right, that was even quoted in the Herald-Standard. Well, why do we want to send somebody back to Harrisburg who's already admitted that his voice isn't being heard? Send me. My voice will be heard. Not my voice, your voice. Your voice. The voice of the 51st District will be heard. Okay? I'll run on my record, but again, we've got a lot of broken promises with the current legislator that we have here, even when we want to talk about open records and his job on what he was going to do and what he wasn't going to do, even with per diems and taking the perks and the trucks. All right. This is also about ethics. Okay. People that you can trust and believe. People that are going to stand up and fight for you. All right. He wants to talk about whether I'm a Democrat or a Republican. As I said, I'm not running to represent a party. I'm here to represent the people. All right. Not a party. We see too much partisan politics. That's the problem that we see locally and federally. All right. It's not about the people, and it's supposed to be about the people. On November 6th, please give me the opportunity that you said you would when I stood at your door and talked to you on the phone. Thank you very much. I'm Gary Gearing, and I want to be your next state representative.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, we want to thank our candidates, Tim Mahoney and Gary Gearing, for agreeing to meet with us today. And thank you for watching. We'll see you later.